Panama's president, José Raúl Mulino, announced that his administration will not extend a 2017 agreement to participate in China's Belt and Road Initiative. This decision follows repeated warnings from U.S. President Donald Trump about potentially reasserting American control over the Panama Canal. The announcement came during a meeting between Mulino and U.S. Secretary of State Rubio, who cautioned the Panamanian leader to swiftly diminish Chinese influence over the canal or risk facing repercussions from the U.S. Despite pressure from the new U.S. administration regarding the management of this crucial global trade route, Mulino stood firm. According to CNN, he later told reporters that Rubio did not explicitly threaten to retake the canal or use military force. However, Mulino acknowledged addressing U.S. concerns about China's presence near the waterway and hinted at the possibility of terminating the BRI agreement ahead of schedule, signaling that Trump's warnings had made an impact. Speaking about Rubio's first international trip as the top U.S. diplomat, Mulino expressed optimism, stating, "I believe this visit paves the way for strengthening relations and maximizing U.S. investments in Panama." He also emphasized that Panama's sovereignty is non-negotiable, despite Trump's persistent threats. In a separate statement, Trump reiterated his warning, suggesting that something very powerful could occur if the U.S. were to reclaim the Panama Canal, citing alleged violations of agreements and China's expanding influence in the region. Speaking to reporters, Trump criticized the transfer of the Panama Canal to Panama, calling it a foolish decision. He warned that something very powerful would occur if the canal was not returned to U.S. control. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're discussing the Panama Canal, he said. Trump accused Panama of violating agreements and allowing China to dominate the canal's operations. What they've done is terrible. They broke the agreement. China is running the Panama Canal. It wasn't given to China, it was given to Panama. But they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it back. Or something very powerful will happen, he added. In a recent statement, President Trump appeared to threaten forceful action to reclaim the Panama Canal if Panama refused to hand it over. Secretary of State Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're talking about the Panama Canal, he reiterated. Even before his inauguration on January 20th, Trump had repeatedly threatened to reassert U.S. control over the canal. He accused Panama of failing to uphold the terms of the 1999 agreement that finalized the transfer of the strategic waterway and alleged that Panama had allowed China to take over its operations. These claims have been strongly denied by the Panamanian government. Under the 1977 treaty, the U.S. returned the canal to Panama's control with the understanding that the waterway remained neutral. According to the agreement, the U.S. could intervene militarily if the canal's operations were disrupted by internal conflict or a foreign power. Today, more cargo than ever runs through the canal than it did during the years of U.S. control. However, Panama joined China's BRI project, which promotes and funds infrastructure and development projects that critics say leave poor member countries heavily indebted to China. To that extent, Panama dropped diplomatic recognition of Taiwan and recognized Beijing. The U.S. has argued that Panama has ceded control of the waterway to China. Secretary Rubio made clear that this status quo is unacceptable and that absent immediate changes, it would require the United States to take measures necessary to protect its rights under the treaty, the State Department said in a summary of the meeting. Between Rubio and Mulino, Panama to conduct audit of China-linked company. Meanwhile, Mulino also said Panamanian authorities are carrying out an audit on a company linked to China that operates 2 terminals around the canal. We have to wait until that audit ends before we can reach our legal conclusions and act accordingly, he said. He was referring to the Panama Ports Company, part of a subsidiary of the Hong Kong-based conglomerate CK Hutchison Holdings. Hutchison Ports is one of the world's largest port operators, overseeing 53 ports in 24 countries, including for other U.S. allies such as the UK, Australia, and Canada. Mulino also said Panamanian authorities spoke with Rubio about the possibility of expanding a migrant repatriation flight program to remove foreign nationals who don't have the legal basis to be in Panama, insisting that the U.S. would have to shoulder the costs. Earlier, about 200 people marched in the capital, carrying Panamanian flags and shouting "Marco Rubio out of Panama, long live national sovereignty, and one territory, one flag," while the meeting was going on. Some burned a banner with images of Trump and Rubio after being stopped short of the presidential palace by riot police.